What's up, gang, and welcome back to another YouTube video. I hope you're all doing well. Recently, I had a kind of a bizarre dream. I had a dream that I was walking around an empty hotel alone at night. Have you ever gotten lost in a hotel and ever walked to a part of it that you weren't sure if you were supposed to be in or that you were allowed to be in? And you just feel like you're going in circles and the lights are kind of low. It just feels like you're not welcome there, but you're not quite sure why they left it open, or that's the best way that I can explain it. Yeah, so I figured, why not make a Serum 2 sound that feels exactly like that? I'm going to start off with a clean initial preset from Serum 2, and I've prepared some MIDI, some nice jazzy MIDI over here. Let's take a listen. Great, so let's go ahead and start. I'm going to turn off Oscillator A for now, and I'm actually going to turn the sub on, but I'm going to leave the octave at 0, because I actually want to use it as a fourth oscillator. I'm going to go ahead and turn the level down to about 35%. Now we can turn on Oscillator A. Let's go from wavetable to multi-sample. Let's go to the factory presets. Let's go keys, baby grand piano, LE. And let's enable the velocity tracking for sure. And we can go ahead and turn the level all the way up, since I want this piano sound to be sort of the main feature. So that sounds super clean. We have that sine wave playing together with the baby grand. Now we can turn on Oscillator B. I want to incorporate a synth sound for sure. I think for a lot of these liminal sounds, blending organic tones with more classic synth tones works really well. So we can leave this on the default saw. I'm going to turn the unison up to 4 and just detune it a little bit. And then I'll pull the level down to about 35% as well, so it matches the sine level. Now we can turn on Oscillator C. I'm also going to go to the multi-sample mode, go to factory, and I think that a string sound would be really nice. So we can go on this cello tremolo LE preset. We're also going to enable velocity tracking on it. Let's hear how that sounds like. So alone it sounds like this. But what I don't want this to play all the time. I just want it to fade in after a while, just to make the sound more dynamic, because it's way more interesting if things happen at the beginning of the sound when you hit the key, and then also like a couple of seconds after. So what I'll do is I'm going to lower this level all the way to 0. Let's go to LFO1, pull this all the way to the right, change it to envelope mode, and then we can stay on BPM, and let's go to half a bar. And then we can map LFO1 to the level. And I'm going to lower the max value to about 30%, 32%. So now you can hear how that fades in slowly over time, instead of just coming in right on the downbeat. Let's hear what that sounds like in context now with all the oscillators turned on. So that adds that lovely bit of texture as you hold the keys down. Next, we can go ahead and shape our envelope. I'm going to turn the attack to 14 milliseconds just to soften it up. I'm going to lower the sustain by about 3 dB, pull the decay out, and then give it a longer release, about 300 milliseconds. That just makes the sound a little more natural. Then we can turn the noise on, and if you know, you know. We're going to go to brown noise, my favorite noise, and we're going to use it not to be actually heard, but to modulate some parameters. So let's take the noise and pull it to this knob over here on Oscillator B. Click on it, go to Alt Warp, bend plus or minus. And now the brown noise is going to be modulating the shape of our saw wave. And we can do the same thing with the filter. So let's turn on the filter. And for this sound, I just want to filter the saw wave. I'm going to enable key tracking. Let's lower this cutoff a bit to 500 Hertz. We can increase the drive and the fat slightly. And we'll do the same thing. We'll just drag the noise to the cutoff over here. And I'll pull it down to about 10-15%. I'm going to change the portamento to 0.3 milliseconds. I think it would be cool if the synth oscillators had a little bit of a pitch bend to them to make it even less digital sounding. The noise is doing a beautiful job by adding some detail to both the filter and the wave shape, but pitch is another element that is also great to mess around with if you want to make your sounds more organic or analog sounding. So we'll just click on envelope 2 over here. I'm going to drag this to something tiny, like 42 milliseconds. We can drag that to the coarse tuning of the sub oscillator and the coarse tuning of Oscillator B. Then I'm going to go to the matrix tab over here. since it's just a little bit easier to see, I'm going to make sure that these go in one direction. And then let's do a straight octave. So I'm going to do -12. That's -12 semitones for both of them. So you can see if I lengthen that decay, you can now really hear that pitch bending. So I'm going to leave it at about 55 milliseconds, pretty subtle. What you can do always is take a macro, like macro number 1, for example, and just map it to this decay time, and then set the max value to whatever you want, like something over a second. So if it's low, it's going to be subtle, but if you turn it up, you can easily just get a huge pitch bend on the start of your key press. But I'm going to keep it subtle. Great, now we can go ahead and start adding some effects. What I want to do is I want to add some character to this baby grand piano separately from oscillators B and C. So what I'll do is I'll click this M button over here, and let's just turn bus 1 all the way up. Now we go to our effects tab, click on bus 1, and I'm going to add a reverb. I'm going to set it to Hall. Let's cut some of the lows out. I'm going to make the size small, about 12%, and the decay can stay where it is. And I'm going to set the reverb to 100%. And let's hear what that sounds like now. Yeah, that sounds absolutely gorgeous. Now that piano feels like it's in a small room, which is exactly what I was going for. The size of the reverb here is going to determine the character of your sound. If you make it super small, it's going to sound really intimate. And if you make it big, it's just going to sound really huge. In this case, I just want to make it feel like it's in a small room. And the small size on the reverb does wonders for that. So now we can go ahead and just add some main effects. So let's add some chorus. Beautiful as always. Let's do a flanger. I'm going to lower that mix to about 65%. Now we can go ahead and add an imager. I'm just going to check up on the width of our sound. So as you can see, it's super wide. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a utility and just pull this width knob down slightly to about 40%. Now let's see the width. That's a lot more manageable now. Our sound is sitting sort of in this V section. If it's too wide, it won't really be as mono compatible. So I always try to not go to the extreme with either my sounds being too wide or too mono when I'm making them. If anything, at this stage, I prefer my sounds to be more mono, because now what we can do is we can always widen it later. So we can go and use a delay, for example. Let's set this to 1/8, turn the feedback up. Mix is probably fine. Let's cut a little bit of the lows and a little bit of the highs out, and let's see what that sounds like. I'm actually going to make this ping pong. So now the sound is wider again, but still very controlled. And finally, let's just add a compressor, because I'm noticing that the sound is pretty quiet. So I'm going to use this just for a slight touch of compression. Let's leave all these settings the same. So you can see it's really not compressing that much, just a little bit of the initial hit, and I'm using this makeup gain knob just to make the sound louder. So I'm very, very pleased with how that's sounding. For the final production, I added a couple of things. Let's go through them. I added this little VHS just to start the sound off. I've got these chimes. Those are also dandy. We got these crashes just on the first hit. Then I added some pink noise for a texture. We've obviously got our main sound that we just designed. And then for this little fill, I added a piano. That piano is from Keyscape. It's the Wing Upright Mono, if you're interested. It's running through UAD's Ocean Way Studios on the Big A preset, just to add a lot of that room tone. And finally, we've got a cello playing some low notes. So that's beautiful. Why don't we go ahead and just play the whole sound? So that'll just about do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching again. Thank you for sticking around to the end if you guys made it. As always, I have a bunch of free resources in the description of this video. They're all on my Gumroad page. I've got Serum 2 presets. I've got Afro House kicks. I've got a free drum kit. I've got a Prophet 5V synthesizer guide. If the Prophet synthesizer ever confused you, this should help out a lot. You can grab all of those resources for absolutely free from the description below. I hope you found some value in this video. As always, leave me a comment letting me know if you liked it. Thank you so much for the support, guys. We've had a lot of new subscribers to this channel recently. The support means everything. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you very, very soon. Appreciate it, and have a good day.